Right, although this series of videos is about training as we get older, there are certain things which we should really be working towards all the way through. However, they do become more important as we get older. I mean, I've said before, in China, they used to like do the hard styles of Kung Fu first, and as people kind of got older, they used to introduce them to the softer styles, Tai Chi, and the likes. So it was expected that the methods of training get softer as we get older, as our bodies lose our natural athleticism, and we lose some of our muscular abilities and our physical strength. We are expected to change. The Japanese approach was a bit more of a one-size-fits-all, and I'm sorry if you're a fan of the Japanese approach, but they don't always take much account of the aging process, and you're just expected to try harder to keep up, which obviously doesn't work for everybody. Anyway, the part I want to talk about today is about relaxed power. Generally in karate and most Eastern martial arts, they tell you to tense on the end. I always say don't tense, stretch. Now, first of all, tensing on the end, what does it actually do? Okay, if you think about it, there's two main points to think about, a point of contact and a point of completion. So if there's my point of contact and I drive through to the point of completion, it's between those 2 points that the damage is done or not done. When I get to the point of completion and go, what's it actually doing? Nothing. Okay, the damage is done between the point of contact and the point of completion. And rather than think about tensing, think about stretching, because as I stretch between those 2 points, I actually move further. Okay, my point of completion is actually a little bit further that way than if I tense. If I tense, I tend to pull it in. If I stretch, I push it out. So I want more power going out into the target between those 2 points, not at the end pulling back. It doesn't actually do anything for me. Now, there are 2 main ways of stretching. Okay, there's a longitudinal stretch, if I use the belts. There's a longitudinal stretch and a twisting stretch. A twisting stretch is generally called torsion or sometimes torque. Okay, but if we think about stretching longitudinally on longer length, and another one is twisting. Now, if I take an outside block, for example, some styles call it inside block, I'm used to calling it outside block. Now, when I get to the completion point, rather than just tensing on the end, if I twist that as far as it will go, okay, it kind of like winds up, spirals all the way up the arm, up to the shoulder. And the more I spiral it, the more I can feel it up the shoulder and even into the lateral muscle. If I tense, yeah, I can tense all my arm muscles, I can tense my lateral muscles, but it's quite a difficult exercise to tense all your muscles at the same time, which is the conventional wisdom. Tense everything. Why? As we just discussed, it's not doing anything. But if I stretch, I use that rotational stretch, okay, let's say it more or less kind of links all the muscles all the way up. Now, your muscles they're not actually connected to each other. One end's connected to a bone, the other end's connected to a bone. So if I take my bicep, for example, it's connected on my shoulder and it's connected on the forearm. And when I contract it, it pulls the forearm towards me. But it's not actually connected to another muscle. It's connected to bones. However, one muscle is connected to another muscle, is connected to another muscle, is connected to another muscle via the fascial system. The fascial system links them together. So when we can kind of make use of that mechanism, we have a much more powerful mechanism. So like I say, when I actually twist that as far as I can, I connect the muscles all the way up through my arm into my body, one connected cycle. So when we punch, stretch out through, that's more of a longitudinal stretch. With most of our blocks, again, it's a rotational stretch. with the inside block. Again, it's a rotational stretch. Okay, so those stretches stretch that way. So I'm turning my hand, so I'm turning my little finger towards my head. Okay, when we look at the rising block and the lower block, we're turning it the other way. Okay, I'm turning the thumb away from me. So the rising block, I've still got that rotational stretch, and again it connects all the way down the arm into the torso, and it connects everything together. So I'm getting a connection rather than trying to tense everything, which is difficult. And particularly as we get older, our muscles tend to fade a little bit. So if we, rather than thinking of big powerful muscles and big powerful strength, if we can connect all our muscles together in a chain, we get a lot more power. Plus, it's just easier. It is just easier as we get older. I mean, you can feel this mechanism, particularly if I'd like to use an outside block, an example. From the stack-up position, if I pull that elbow back and stretch that arm forward, you feel a stretch going from those fingertips all the way back to the elbow across the chest. And it's like a big elastic band. Where your leg goes, I'll put it like an elastic band and firing it. And that is in the halfway step of a lot of our techniques. It also works with other techniques where instead of stretching across the chest, we stretch across the back. Okay, like with the inside block. Or with a knife hand block, we stretch across the back, so we've got all that big elastic band feeling, and then release. Now, it's not just the halfway point. When I get to the other end, and I stretch that way, okay, I'm almost kind of winding my body up to fire out the other way. So, if I stretch around here, as far as I can, I stretch this one as well. I've got all my arm muscles stretched, ready to fire back. If I tense, I get a moment of stillness. Also, when you tense hard, it's kind of easy to relax afterwards. So you tense hard, you get a relaxation, which is good. But there's nothing necessarily to help you fire out. If I wind this one up as much as I can, and I get that stretch, that spiraling going right up to my shoulder, then I've got something that's stretched, waiting to fire out at the other end. So I'm using stretching rather than tensing. When you stretch something out, okay, if I take it in the middle, and I stretch a little bit more that way, down to the bottom, of course the thing wants to pull upwards, doesn't it? So there's a dynamic pressure to pull upwards. So if I give into that pressure to pull upwards and come upwards, now I've stretched the bottom half, and there's a pressure to pull back downwards. If I give way to that bottom pressure, again, I now got a pressure to pull upwards. So I'm going from one loaded position to another loaded position to another loaded position. So if, for example, I take some of our basic combinations, if I take a Shotokan, that outside block, I've got a stretch going across my chest and through my arms. Now I've got the stretch going across my back and through my arms that way. If I release that, okay, now I've got a stretch in this hand that's pulled back. I've got the rotational stretch there as well. So whichever way I go, I've got a stretching. Okay, adding to that, okay, what I haven't talked about yet is with the legs. Okay, I've talked about the spiraling with the arms. You can spiral with your legs too. Now, if you just imagine that I'm trying to pull those floorboards apart, okay, I'm going to call that that's what we normally call the open position. So imagine I'm trying to pull the floorboards apart, okay, then I try and pull the floorboards together, okay, that's the closed position. So open, pulling that way, closed, pulling that way. And what you're looking for is a spiraling feeling going all the way up the legs, all the way up to the hips. Now, with any of your techniques, any of your blocking techniques where we pull the hip back, if we open, we pull the floorboards apart, have that stretch through the arm, through the chest, all the rest of it that I've talked about, and then I close with the legs. So I come to that closed position, so I spiral open, spiral close, spiral open, spiral close, spiral open, spiral close, spiral open, spiral close, spiral open, spiral close. So you get the gist of it. So we're using elasticity and stretching throughout our entire body. Okay, arms, legs, chest, everything. And it works so much better than tension. It's good at all ages, but particularly as we get older, our muscles begin to decline a little bit, but we can still relax, we can still use the elasticity. And it's something that we can carry on developing even as our bodies tend to get a little bit weaker. It's actually more effective. You actually get more impact doing it this way. So give it a try. Get a focus mitt, have someone hold it, you know, someone who can take a bit of a wallop, and try it both ways. Try hitting them and tense at the end, then try relaxing and stretching through. And I can practically guarantee you, well, I can guarantee you, if you do it right, they will feel a much more penetrating impact on the second one, on the stretching one. Now this idea of relaxed power, I've done a full module on this, which will go into a bit more detail than what I've done in this video. Okay, in the description below, I will put a link to that module, okay, the relaxed power module. If you found this interesting, I would seriously recommend you have a look through the whole module. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please leave us a like and a comment below. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm and helps our ratings on YouTube. So thank you.